Today we're going to go over the exercise that most people know as pros and cons, and some people call a cost-benefits analysis, which is an essential skill to learn in any form of decision making. For many people who have a low sense of emotional sensitivity and grow up in healthy environments, developing this skill is an automatic thing to do. They learn at an early age how to weigh up the options that are available and make decisions from a wise mind perspective. For those of us that fall into the category of highly sensitive people, though, with dominant emotional child parts in our personality system, this skill is something we have to make a conscious effort to learn and develop. The eventual goal of using the pros and cons skill is to help us see that accepting reality and tolerating distress leads to better outcomes than rejecting reality and refusing to tolerate distress. This skill consists of spending time to mindfully consider the positive and negative aspects of both acting and not acting on the behavioural urges we experience in what we see as crisis situations. When you have to make a decision between two or more options and want to examine their advantages and disadvantages, pros and cons can be very important in helping you to make a wise mind choice. It's actually the case that all of us use pros and cons some of the time, even if it's only implicitly, to make decisions in our lives. Pros and cons can also help you to resist urges to act impulsively or do things that are destructive, particularly when you're blended with parts that exist in emotion mind. Pros and cons can help us all resist urges to quit and give up on life. It can help us resist actions such as using drugs or binging and purging or having angry outbursts at other people that we actually might care about. Pros and cons is a way to engage your healthy adult and to slow things down enough to give you space to figure things out in a helpful and effective way. Doing pros and cons involves writing down the positive and negative consequences of tolerating distress by resisting impulsive behaviours, as well as the positive and negative consequences of not tolerating distress by engaging in impulsive behaviours. Start by describing the crisis behaviour that you're trying to stop. Crisis behaviour is any type of behaviour that in the short run, long run, or both is damaging to your own self-interest and well-being. It's considered to be any ineffective behaviour pattern when it comes to living the life you want to live according to your true core values and beliefs. Next, examine the advantages and disadvantages, or the pros and cons, of participating in the behavioural response that your system has an urge for you to act on. It's really important to get honest with yourself at this point in time. Leave no stone unturned and explore every single angle that you can think of, because doing this will give you a complete picture from a dialectical perspective. When you're doing pros and cons, don't forget to consider both the short-term and the long-term consequences of the behaviour that you're examining. Sometimes we can only see the short-term benefits, as these are the ones that we're used to responding to. This is the problem with instant gratification, as it can activate a filter that only allows us to see things from this rigid point of view. Make up separate lists of pros and cons for each different crisis urge that you're working on. Imagine that you're deciding among using a substance, filing for a divorce, quitting a job, or some other impulsive action. It's important to consider the pros and cons of each action separately. It's also important to write separate lists for the pros and cons of not engaging in these actions. Doing so thoroughly will once again provide the dialectical perspective that we're trying to create to get the complete picture of what's actually going on. It can be really helpful to rehearse the pros of resisting urges as well as the cons of giving into urges multiple times before any overwhelming urge hits. Rehearsing this way makes it more likely that the pros of avoiding distracted behaviour and the cons of engaging in destructive behaviour will pop into your mind when needed. It's also been found to be an incredibly effective behaviour pattern to review the pros and cons that you've written out earlier when an overwhelming emotion or urge hits our system. If these are not available, then this is actually a really good time to sit down and write up these pros and cons. However, it can be really difficult to do this when we're blended with parts in emotion mind, so it's helpful for us to get the support from someone else when doing these pros and cons while we're in this crisis mode. It can be really helpful to say out loud or even yell no when an overwhelming emotion or urge hits. Once this is done, it's important to distract yourself from the urge and from the event that's tempting you. Say to yourself something along the lines of, no, that's it. There's absolutely no way I'm going back into that old behaviour pattern, or something similar to that effect. In the PDF at the bottom of the website page that's attached to this video, you're going to find a worksheet that can help you with completing this exercise. Remember, it's incredibly important to put pen to paper with this type of problem, as it not only assists us with seeing the bigger picture, it also slows down the process of decision making, which helps us with not taking fast reactionary actions that make the situation worse than it might have been already. If you check out my YouTube channel and the pages of my website, you're going to find a lot more videos and handouts that talk about this and all the other skills associated with dialectical behaviour therapy. If you like the content of this particular video, please subscribe to the channel, smash that like button and turn on those notifications for all the latest from me and the Liberation Place. I hope this video gave you some insight for how completing the pros and cons can really help in the decision making process. Thanks for watching, hope to see you again soon. Take care, be safe and be well.